then after the Panch Kedars, the next destination after the 4 Kedars, the next destination of course was Kedarnath, which is the most important of the Kedars. So, we passed through Master Maheshwar, took a cross country route as usual, as Babaji was accustomed to, and arrived, entered the road to Kedarnath through Gupta Kashi. Gupta Kashi, there is a small temple of Kashi Vishwanath, which is hidden away, so it is called Gupta Kashi, hidden Kashi. And then from there we took 3 days walking through the villages to reach Kedarnath. As soon as we entered Kedarnath, now this going to Kedarnath is something very, very fascinating, because you keep walking once you reach Gauri Kund. Gauri Kund is the last stop for buses and vehicles. From Gauri Kund you have to walk for 14 kilometers even today. If you can't walk, you might go on a khachar, which is a mare, or carried by these Nepalese boys on a basket or on a dholi. But the best thing is to walk. If you are healthy, then it is best to walk. So, from Gauri Kund, 14 kilometer walk. Those days when I was young and was walking with Babaji, started from Gauri Kund in the morning at around 4:30, and I think by 10:30 I was in Kedarnath. Now it is not possible to do so fast. Anyway, soon as we reached Kedarnath, Babaji said, first we go to the temple and do pranams and then go to the place where we reside. So he took me. Now the site of Kedarnath is so fascinating. When you walk and as you keep climbing, you do not see any snow-clad mountains except in the distance, far away. Then when you come to Rambara and take a left turn, suddenly you see before you this huge peaks full of ice shining. It is as if Shiva is standing before you in the form of a huge ice linga. It strikes everybody, because suddenly you are face to face with a mountain or a range of mountains completely covered with ice and shining like silver. So this is my first vision of Kedar. So I went with Babaji, entered Kedarnath, the town of Kedarnath, the temple of Kedarnath, which is a Shiva temple. It is right on the foot of the Kedar range, the Kedar mountains, very close, and it becomes extremely cold there, because first of all you are about 14,000 feet above sea level. Secondly, you are surrounded on all sides by ice-clad mountains, and you are so close. The temple itself is right there on the foothills of the mountains. So first we went there, and it was open. There was not much rush, so we went there. I think we were going there towards the end of the season, when it is so cold that mostly pilgrims do not come. Went there, bow down, took a pradakshina of the temple, and then Babaji said that now we will go up to the cave and stay there. As you enter the way that goes to the temple and cross the river on the bridge, if you look towards the left side on the top, far away you will see even today a few small kutirs. 2 years ago when we went to Kedarnath, I sent some of young boys to go up, and some not so young also joined them, to go up and look at the kutirs, and they said they are still existing, and there is still a beautiful garden behind the kutirs, but you can't make out from below, you have to go up. So right up there on the left side there was a small kutir which was Babaji always lived there, he said, whenever he went to Kedarnath. He says that he has lived there with Sri Guru Babaji during the days when he himself was doing tapasya, which may be 100 years ago, I can't reckon. Anyway, So we went there to the cave, and there was an assistant of a trader, a Marwadi trader, who used to come there every year, provide blankets to the sadhus, and provide provisions to the Kali Kambliwala Dharamshala, where sadhus can stay freely and they are given food. So this Marwadi gentleman had sent an assistant who used to bring food to the cave all the way up. So when we reached there was food brought for me, so I had food, and then Babaji told me that he would stay one more day and that he was going to Gomukh, so he had to leave and I have to stay there alone. Then he told me, Sri Guru Babaji, which is our Parama Guru, does want some things to be done with my nervous system and my brain to accelerate the movement towards spiritual consciousness. So he said that you stay here for some time. After a while, 3 people will come and take you to some place where you will have to undergo certain procedures which will help you to move forward faster than you can normally. So I never said no to anything that Babaji said, so I agreed. So after Babaji left, one morning while I was meditating, 3 men entered the cave. I could not actually see their complete faces. I only know that they were wearing some kind of a cloth which came up to their knees, and they were bare-bodied up. They were very fair, almost white and pale, as if they were suffering from anemia, and on their face there was a cloth tied like the surgeons do in operation theatres, same thing that surgeons tie in operation theatres, like the Jain sadhus, the Jains of the Svetambara sect and the Digambara sect, they tie a cloth. So they came. Babaji had given me a code word, a code sentence, which I was supposed to tell them, and they were supposed to reply to me in a particular manner. He said if they didn't, then I was not supposed to go with them. He said, in this field, in this particular path that we are taking, there is always the danger of negative forces taking over. So he said, this is the right time for negative forces to catch you. So unless and until they clear the code with you, you are not supposed to go with them. So when they came and said, mumbled, Sri Guru Babaji has asked us to take you there, I used the code. They replied exactly as Babaji told me, so I agreed to go with them. So the first thing they did was, they took a black cloth and blindfolded me, and then we went. So since they had blindfolded me, I don't know where they were taking me, but we went quite a distance. It must have taken an hour or so, and then I felt that we were descending some steps. So we got down the steps, and then I felt that we were going through a corridor, because the air, hardly any air was there. It was kind of and cold. And then they took off the blindfold. When they took off the blindfold, I found that we were somewhere in a cave. I saw the entrance from which we could have come, and there was a dhuni burning there at one end, and these 3 people asked me to lie down on a plank of wood which was kept in the middle of the room. So I lay down. Then there was a 4th man sitting there who said, breathe in and breathe out and fix your attention on the breath. So I did that for some time, and I felt very calm and quiet and settled and tranquil. Then they took a bowl from somewhere, a bowl, and inside that was some green colored liquid which I was supposed to drink. It was so bitter, but I forced myself to drink the whole thing. As soon as I had drunk that, in about half a minute, there was such terrible pain in my stomach and my neck and my body, and the body started to have almost convulsions, fits. Now, while this was going on, near my head I saw them with a small round thing, metallic looking thing, which they opened, and from there they took out two wires with some kind of contacts in it and put them inside my head. I was not unconscious, I could feel all that. One here and one somewhere here, pressed it inside, said, close your eyes. So I closed my eyes. Slowly that pain and everything went off. The body stopped the jerky movement like a fit. And then I thought I was kind of floating, the floating feeling, and that floating feeling increased and it moved towards the feet, and then with one small jerk I suddenly found that I was looking at the room. Even though I thought the eyes were closed, I was actually looking at the room, and I saw all these people sitting around, 4 of them, that machine there, and then I was surprised to see me lying there. My body was also lying on that plank, and I realized that probably I have come out of my body and I was looking down at the whole scene. My body was lying as if it was dead, straight, pale, no movement, nothing. I wandered about a bit here and there, and then I looked at these people with the masks who were sitting around, and they looked at me. So I knew that they could see me as I could see them, and they nodded their heads. After a while I thought, aha, this is so wonderful, I don't want to go back in there. So I started moving out of the cave. From outside the cave I could see the temple, very beautiful, standing there. I said, this is wonderful, I hope that they cut the connection and I am free forever. The moment I thought about that, there was a horrible jerk, and it was like, and I felt like I was falling from a great height. I don't know if anyone has experienced this. When you are dreaming sometimes, the deep dream, deep sleep, sometimes you feel that you are falling from from height down suddenly in the dream. It was like that. So now I think it happens because every human being at night probably leaves his body and moves around in his subtle body, which is the Shushma Sharira, travels around. But I think the problem is that when you come back, the brain has not been trained to remember the experiences. So the experiences that you have, they're kind of mixed up with other thoughts and jumbled up, and this is what you think is a dream. So some people get up from the dream and say, oh, I dreamt that I was in a beautiful place. And what happened? Then I came back and everything vanished. Now, if you want to remember these experiences, the best thing to do is, as soon as you wake up in the morning, while memory is still there a little bit, take down a paper and jot down everything. Because within an hour, the whole thing will be forgotten. But yogis are trained to go consciously out of their bodies, remain out and come back when they want, and remember everything that happened during that experience. What I am trying to say is, every human being goes through this, but they don't remember enough in a proper manner to understand that this has happened. Sometimes by mistake, when they wake up suddenly, that's when you feel you are falling from a height. It's coming back to the body. Actually, the same way, I was also I also felt a very strong tug, and I was back in the system. When I woke up, I had a terrible headache. So the person sitting there put his hand on my head and massaged a little bit until I became somewhat normal. But then they said I could stand up, but when I stood up, I was feeling dizzy and about to fall. Things weren't in their proper place. The consciousness was not fixed properly. So they said, close your eyes and sit down cross-legged. Close my eyes, and then I felt a kind of a floating sensation like sitting in an aeroplane. And then when I opened my eyes, I was back in our little kutir. After that, I stayed in that kutir for at least 4 or 5 days, for 3 weeks actually, till Babaji came back from Gomukh. Now during these 3 weeks, every night I used to lie down, close my eyes and think of what happened the previous day, and found that I could very easily float out of my body and move around. Now the thing is, it is not such a difficult thing. People don't do it or cannot do it, mostly because they don't believe in it first. Belief is important. If you don't believe in something, nothing will work. First, they don't believe that a Shushma Sharira or a subtle body exists. So it rules out the capacity for most people. Now suppose you believe, then there is fear that if I go, how will I come back? Will I be dead forever? The fact is, first fear, faith, whether it is there, you cannot do anything. You have to believe. The other, you see, like any other thing in the world, unless you believe you can do it, you cannot do it. This not only applies to this, it applies to everything on earth. If I start any career or any life or any art or any science saying, I don't think I can do it, it will not work. You have to believe, yes, it will work. And then even with repeated failures, it's going to work, because the mind has tremendous capacities which are unleashed the moment you have faith. I have discussed this with Babaji many times. I must tell you this example which Babaji told me. He said, you imagine a man walking on the street. He's a very weak looking man. If you look at him, you don't even think that he is going to walk another few feet. He's so tired, old, weak, wearing torn clothes, a beggar walking on the street. And he says, you think that any next step he might fall down and die. He said, in that condition, suppose a car or a vehicle or a bus or something comes very close to him and stops with screeching brakes and horns and all that. What will normally happen to this person? Normally, probably he would have jumped across the road, which is not possible even for a long jump champion, because he has to save his life. And his conscious mind, which says I am weak, I am powerless, I cannot do, does not exist at that time, because something else is taken charge from here, which says this body has to be saved instantly. So he is not conditioning himself by imagining that he cannot do it. Because under the present circumstances, if he imagines, I am an old man, I am a weak man, I am a sick man, he cannot do it. So for some reason, for survival of the body, which is a built-in system, suddenly the adrenal gland in the human body pumps hormones into the system, into the bloodstream, and there is a sudden action, which is a defensive action. To be free of death, he jumps. This would not have been possible if he had conditioned his mind, his conscious mind, to think, oh, I cannot do it, I am a weak man. It happens because his conscious mind is not thinking at that moment. The action comes from beyond thought. Faith is also something like that. It works outside our imagination. It's beyond our control. It comes from somewhere else. why I am saying this is one of the reasons why people are not able to come out of their heavy clay weight laden body is because they don't believe in it. If you believe in it, one, and two, if you come out, if you learn how to remember what you experience, because most often even if you do it, when you come back the brain rubs off all the memory of it. If you learn techniques or methods by which you can remember your experiences, and three, if you are guided by someone in the right technique of doing it, I am telling you the discussion I had with Babaji, not as if I am saying this, then it is possible, I think, for most human beings, there may be some exceptions, to be able to do it sometime or the other, if not always. For me, when I lived in that cave after this experience for 4 or 5 days, no, for 3 weeks before Babaji came back, I used to lie down and I worked out myself a certain way of doing it smoothly without fear. I imagined that on the top of the roof there was a big rope hanging, thick rope tied down, and I closed my eyes and I used to imagine that I am trying to catch the rope and climb up and go to the top of the roof. First the right hand, you actually have to feel the rope in your hand, right, left, right, left, till you have when you are nearly in your mind, imagination, touching the roof, you suddenly realize that you are looking down and there is a body lying there. Now, first time you see your body, you will be surprised because it does not look as you think it looks. We always have an image about our body, and that image is based on photographs or what we see in the mirror. But how another person is looking at you may be completely different. So, for the first time when you look at your body as if somebody else is looking at it, for a second you will wonder, oh, is this me? Take some time to actually recognize and find out. Anyway, so for the next 3 weeks in the kutir, I spent doing all these activities, trying to every night come out, float around. In fact, once I think I went very far, and there I saw on the way to Gomukh in a place for Bhojbasa which I had never visited in my life before. Afterwards I went with Babaji and saw it. I saw Babaji sitting in one cave and meditating. I had never seen Babaji meditating before. He always kept his eyes open, but there I saw him close his eyes and meditate. It is very interesting because when your subtle body goes somewhere, nobody can see you. You can see somebody, but they cannot see you. You can hear, you can see, you can smell, but you cannot feel. I mean, if you cannot bring a watch or something from somewhere, this is not possible, because if you catch something, your fingers will go through it. You cannot, but you can smell, you can see, and you can hear. 3 things happen. So, normally the subtle body, which is called Shushma Sharira, it is also called in yogic terminology Linga Sharira. About this also in the Tirumantiram of Tirumular, it has been beautifully described about how this happens. Now, when so I saw Babaji sitting with closed eyes and meditating. I just stood there and in my subtle body did pranams, and I was standing there and wondering, he is meditating. Suddenly he opened his eyes and he said, what are you doing here? Go back. This is amazing because nobody can see you. So immediately I was tucked back and I found myself back in that body. The thing is, when you come back, you feel disgusted because It's so difficult to carry this around. It's like a dead weight actually, and that is like flying like a butterfly above on the sky. So, after that, after 3 weeks, Babaji came back, and together we went to Gomukh. We go to Gomukh, we came back to Rishikesh. I think about this. But before that, I want to complete my story about Tirumular, which I stopped halfway last time. Now, so this young yogi who came in search of Agastya, he came to the south and he found these goats and sheep crying because the shepherd was lying dead. Tirumular, feeling so sad, got into the shepherd's body, leaving his body in the hollow trunk of a tree, and got up. So the sheep were very happy. So he wandered around with the sheep for some time, grazing them. By the time some villager in the forest found a body lying under the hollow of the tree and burnt it. They thought it is a dead body, is lying there, it will get. So after 2 days that body was burnt. So Tirumular could not get back into his original body. He continued to occupy the body of the shepherd. Now in Tamil, Tirumular means the shepherd, one who looks after sheep. When he came back home, his wife saw that she could not recognize his same body. So she thought her husband has come back. But the husband, after sitting down, started spouting Tamil poetry, which is the Tirumantiram. And as she started singing the poems, she was shocked to see how can my husband sing such beautiful Tamil poems. That is the Tirumantiram that we have today. And I would suggest anyone who is interested in the spiritual field to read and understand the Tirumantiram, which is one of the most important spiritual texts, I must say, which have been written in the world. It contains everything about spiritual practice, about yoga, about Kundalini, about the chakras, about how yogis attain samadhi, what is the situation, what is the position in which they should sit when they leave their body. The entire, including Linga Sharira, Shushma Sharira, there is nothing that has not been discussed. Fortunately for us, there is a beautiful English translation of the Tirumantiram available now, I think with the Ramakrishna Mission or with the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. One of these I have seen it. It's a very important textbook that should be read, and now the English reading public can read it. Those who know Tamil need not worry because the originals are available as it is without any interpretation whatsoever.